In a country of fewer than 6 million people, more than 1 million were immigrants. For years, Denmark opened its doors, convinced that coexistence would arrive on its own, but it didn't. Neighborhoods emerged where the law stopped being enforced, schools where Danish was no longer the main language, and crime statistics no one wanted to look at. While Europe insisted multiculturalism was the future, Denmark did something unthinkable. It buried it. Governments on the left and the right broke the consensus. They tightened the laws. They reduced arrivals. They began to reverse the process. Years later, immigration fell. The ghettos were dismantled, and the country changed course. The press called it inhumane. Others called it a model, but almost no one explains how Denmark buried multiculturalism, or what price it was willing to pay to do it. And to understand how they did this, we first need to understand how it all began. During World War II, Nazi-occupied Denmark faced the planned deportation of its Jewish population. The response was extraordinary. Ordinary citizens, fishermen, priests, doctors, and families organized secret operations to ferry Jews to safety. In a matter of days, over 7,000 people were rescued by their neighbors. Jews were not seen as outsiders but as fellow Danes, and Danes protect Danes. This act revealed a deeper truth about the country. For a small nation, survival depends on strong community bonds. Social cohesion was not an abstract idea but a lived principle, forged through shared responsibility and mutual trust. That sense of collective duty shaped Denmark's identity and its choices long after the war. After liberation, the same principle guided Reconstruction. Denmark built a welfare state based on a social contract: free education, universal health care, public housing, and safety nets for all. Through collective bargaining and cooperation among unions, employers, and government, productivity grew, conflict declined, and trust became the foundation of economic and social stability. By the mid-1960s, Denmark was a model of prosperity built on social cohesion. Society was largely homogeneous, and high taxes were seen as an investment in the shared future. Economic growth created new pressures. Factories, construction, and services needed more workers than the population could supply. In 1967, the government brought in guest workers from Turkey, Pakistan, and Yugoslavia. The plan was simple: work, earn, and return home. By 1973, 30,000 to 40,000 guest workers lived in Denmark, and the economy remained strong. In the 1980s and 1990s, immigration in Denmark changed completely. Refugees arrived from Iraq, Iran, Somalia, the Middle East, and later Yugoslavia, fleeing war, persecution, and genocide. Unlike earlier guest workers, these families sought permanent refuge, bringing different languages, religions, and customs. Foreign origin communities concentrated in public housing, forming neighborhoods where Danish was no longer dominant and local traditions faded. Parallel societies emerged, challenging the country's social cohesion and creating segregated zones. The labor market and schools were hardest affected. Immigrants faced language barriers, unrecognized credentials, and weak networks, often relying on state benefits for years. In schools, many children didn't speak Danish at home, making it difficult to teach civic norms, gender equality, and basic participation. Cultural and language gaps disrupted everyday life, from parent-teacher meetings to school trips and swimming lessons. What was initially celebrated as multiculturalism began to look like parallel societies forming within Denmark. Communities operated by different rules, values, and expectations, creating social fragmentation. Security concerns grew as informal groups exercised control in certain neighborhoods, not just through crime, but by enforcing norms foreign to Danish society. Women were harassed, mixed couples threatened, and emergency services often needed police escorts to operate safely. Immigration rose rapidly, from 3.3% of the population in 1985 to over 8% by the late 1990s, concentrated in specific neighborhoods, schools, and housing projects. What started as local integration issues evolved into a national debate about cohesion, Danish identity, and whether the welfare model could withstand demographic change. 2001 elections brought the center-right to power. For the first time in 80 years, the Social Democrats were no longer the majority. Immigration became the central debate. Denmark tightened asylum and family reunification laws, reduced benefits for new arrivals, strengthened residency requirements, and limited immigration from outside Europe. This shift was based on one idea: social cohesion is a limited resource. For the welfare state to function, newcomers must fully adapt. Soon, even the left admitted that the open-door model risked collapse. Denmark was no longer debating whether to restrict immigration, only how much. In 2010, the government introduced the ghetto list, a legal tool with specific criteria. A neighborhood was classified as a ghetto if more than 50% of its residents were of non-Western origin, unemployment exceeded the national average, educational levels were low, and crime was high. While other countries avoided linking immigration with criminality, Denmark did so explicitly. Behind this was an economic calculation. The sustainability of the welfare state depends on the majority contributing more than they receive. The figures showed clear differences. Danes of ethnic origin contributed a net 41 billion kroner, while groups of non-Western origin showed a negative balance of 24 billion. The migration debate became central to the viability of the Danish model. In 2011, the Social Democrats returned to power. Many expected change, relaxed restrictions, easier permits. The opposite happened. They did not repeal the center-right's measures. They kept them and even strengthened them, restricting citizenship and tying benefits to job seeking. For the first time, the Danish left adopted an idea from the right. Without cohesion and labor market integration, the welfare state is not sustainable. In 2015, during the peak of the European migration crisis, Denmark received more than 21,000 asylum applications, a huge pressure for a country of 6 million people. Denmark responded by tightening further, reducing benefits and strengthening borders. The message was clear: national cohesion first. In 2016, the jewelry law was passed. Authorities could confiscate cash or valuables from asylum seekers, making them pay for their stay. The message: Denmark will not be comfortable. The government published advertisements in Lebanese newspapers warning about restrictions, deliberate deterrence. In 2018, burqas and niqabs were banned in public spaces. Cultural adaptation was not optional. 2018. The ghetto list included 29 neighborhoods: Voldsmose, Gellerup, Tingbjerg, synonymous with exclusion, unemployment, violence. The state's response was drastic: demolish public housing blocks, relocate families, mix demographics. Crimes in these zones carried harsher penalties. Children forced to attend daycare from age 1, 25 hours weekly, learn Danish and values. Families not complying saw benefits reduced. The plan: eliminate foreign enclaves. By 2030, no neighborhood over 30% non-Western residents. 2019. Social Democrats returned promising to maintain restrictions, even reinforce them. Mette Frederiksen understood the cultural shift before anyone. Direct, pragmatic, unafraid. Her message: protecting the Danish model meant controlling who enters. With her in power, Denmark pushed to reduce asylum applications to zero, completely changing system logic. Immigration through asylum was no longer a path to new life. Temporary protection with explicit expectation of return. Those obtaining protection received temporary permits, 1 or 2 years, subject to reviews. If origin country improved, protection revoked. 2021. Denmark revoked permits for 453 Syrian refugees. Damascus considered safe enough. They were transferred to departure centers. Limited rights. Wait for deportation. The change was doctrinal. Official language stopped mentioning integration, replaced with self-sufficiency and return. Goal: not converting newcomers to citizens, ensuring they support themselves and return soon. The state began offering money to leave. Any immigrant or refugee could apply for compensation to return voluntarily. State-covered travel, paid up to 225,000 kroner, 30,000 euros, for reintegration. Better to pay for return than support indefinitely through welfare. This was a new way of thinking, built on 3 pillars. First, integration. From 2023, refugees must accept jobs within 3 months. Work first, learn while working. Integration isn't voluntary. It's conditional for welfare access. Non-compliance means reduced or eliminated benefits. Second, citizenship, not automatic. Requires 9 to 12 years legal residence, advanced language exam, Danish history and culture exam, economic independence, clean criminal record. Third, strict family reunification limits. Must be 24 years old, own income and housing. Deposit 59,000 kroner as guarantee. Long waiting times mean many reunifications never happen. 2022. Parliament approved total externalization of asylum process. Someone requesting asylum can be sent to a third country like Rwanda for processing, not on Danish soil. Message: asylum doesn't mean automatic access. Even if approved, Denmark doesn't grant residence. Protection provided in the processing center country. Goal: eliminate the incentive to reach Denmark physically. 2024. Denmark registered historically low asylum approvals, 864 people, one of the lowest EU rates. But across Europe, immigration frustration translated into right-wing parties rising. Not in Denmark. The strict agenda wasn't the rights. Social Democrats absorbed it. A party traditionally open and humanitarian toughened its stance. Reclaimed ideas from the nationalist Danish People's Party. By dragging anti-immigration consensus to center-left, Social Democrats neutralized the right. The Danish People's Party, second force in 2015, entered sharp decline. 2024 European elections barely maintained minimal representation. What strengthened the right elsewhere consolidated the left in Denmark. Harsh policies weren't right-wing victory. They were state policy adopted by the country's most stable force. 2025. Denmark assumed EU Council rotating presidency. Frederiksen took her agenda to the European Parliament in Strasbourg. Europe must reduce flows and regain border control, not marginal. The roadmap for negotiations with 27 members. The Danish Social Democrat calling for change only nationalists had pushed before. But understand this, while Denmark blocks humanitarian asylum, it opens selective labor channels. People who contribute to economy immediately. The positive list system identifies professions with shortages. Doctors, engineers, technicians. Facilitates entry of foreigners with qualifications. The Danish paradox combines harsh restrictions with specific incentives, not isolating from the world, filtering who enters and under what conditions. Clear logic. Protect welfare, maintain cohesion, secure talent and advanced economy needs. Denmark understood something fundamental. A generous welfare state and uncontrolled immigration cannot coexist long-term. The Danish model rests on mutual trust, high taxes, generous benefits. But it only functions when most contribute more than they receive. When newcomers depend on benefits without integrating, the model breaks. Denmark looked at numbers, saw fiscal reality, made a decision. Integration isn't optional. Employment isn't optional. Cultural adaptation isn't optional. Requirements, not ideological, mathematical. The welfare state has limits. Denmark decided protecting it meant enforcing those limits strictly. Denmark buried multiculturalism without apology. It stopped pretending that different values can coexist without friction and that integration can be gradual or voluntary. Adaptation became mandatory, measurable, and enforceable. Work, learn Danish, adopt the country's values, or leave. The focus shifted from asking what immigrants need to what Denmark needs. Denmark prioritizes its citizens and the sustainability of its social model over unlimited generosity toward immigrants. The strategy has reduced applications, improved integration, and balanced public finances. This model is spreading throughout Europe. Other countries are adopting it partially or discreetly. Denmark changed the debate, from humanitarian values to fiscal sustainability and social cohesion. And that's it for the video. Tell me what you think about what Denmark has done in the comments, subscribe, and see you next time. Have a great day.